Welcome to the reTex tutorial for the Graphik ONE pack. So we've got a set of 3 devices in this new pack for the World Collection or through Isotonic Studios, and we're going to have a look at reTex. I'm going to pop reTex down here. We've got nothing visible. Why isn't anything showing? We need to drop an image into it. So I've got a little folder here where I can pop some images. You just drop it into the base and then you get an image. To get rid of the jaggies, we'll just increase the texture resolution and it looks a bit better. Let's change the scale down, something a bit lower. And we've just got a simple texture, and that's actually mapped onto it's into a 3-dimensional space, but it's on a 2-dimensional plane. So it's just simply, like a board or a plane, and then you apply the texture. And if the texture's got any transparencies like this one does, it will be the shape that the transparencies are around. So if I've just say got this triangle here, you can see that as a default image. These black parts here are transparent, and they'll allow you to do stuff like have multiple of these retexes or whatever device you want. And let's put another one, and we'll rotate that, and we'll make it a bit smaller. And then if we use this layering system here, we can change the layer in which they draw and have it so now one is visible on top of the other. So see that I'll rotate that around, and now we've got two of these overlapping objects. So you can do basic stuff like rotating them around. It's on the other way. But then also with this you can audio activate these objects as well. So with reTex you can activate different parts of the image using bright, and what that does is just turn up the gain and smooth the audio coming in. It breaks up the image into darker and brighter sections, and the darker sections are activated by the bass, and the lighter sections are activated by the treble, and sort of all the frequencies in between. And you can see it has this kind of effect where the original image isn't split up like that, but it gives it abstracts the original image into something that can be, I guess, turned into something that's a little bit more interesting, a little bit more unique, and just takes it away from that original source material. Then there's also spectrogram mode, which just from left to right just applies a spectrogram that affects the brightness, so low frequencies on the left, high frequencies on the right. And then peak mode, which just flashes the entire texture based on the peak amplitude. You can also make the transparency based on color instead of just say you're using a JPEG, and let's say this JPEG here, and we want to make that background black here. Or transparent, so something can show through. We can use the color transparency, click on the color we want, and then it goes transparent. You can change the tolerance of that by turning this tolerance value up and down, and you can just click on any parts of this image and it will make it transparent. Pretty cool feature. So let's get rid of that. We'll drop a new one in there, and then we'll play with just layering and having a look at this these buttons over here, which do texture manipulation. So we will let's get this little spiral doodad in here, and we'll pop it there. Okay, so we've got 2 of these things. Basically, if you turn them on, you'll be able to use these functions. Origin just shifts it across, and as it gets to the end of the texture, it will just start again. Whereas this offset one, you can see that the spiral's going anti-clockwise. When I use origin, it's still anti-clockwise. But if instead I use offset, now it's going clockwise. So it allows you to flip the texture and have a never-ending cycling or looping texture. Scale just changes how many versions of that image are along that axis. So here we've just basically multiplied it by many times, say 8 by 8. And then finally down the bottom there's divide, and divide, whoops, I've set that to 0. Finally divide basically just repeats it and pushes it back on itself like a kaleidoscope. So why have we got 2 of these particular channels of manipulation? Well, because if you're using, just say we're using scale here, and we want to just offset the individual, I'll just say we're flipping it around and using this. Just so we want to offset the pattern that we're flipping around, we can't do that because we're just moving the entire texture over. So instead, if we put these two modulations, if we instead just put scale back to 1 and scale to 2 here, and then instead use that divide over here, we can then use this origin and offset or shift the original part of the texture. So you're basically multiplying that texture, and then you've got one layer which is manipulating the original, and then in the second part you're multiplying it. So then whatever manipulations you do on the first channel is going to reflect on all 4 of those versions instead of just the entire thing. So we can also divide these ones up like we can with this as well, and you know, then we can offset the original, or if we do the divide here and we offset the original, and you can create some really interesting patterns, very flowering kind of fractal patterns with this. And of course you can, you know, automate this in a lane and have these moving to the music if you so wish. Oops, that's the track volume rookie mistake. And we'll just automate this. And then if we like, we can pop that there. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And then we've just got this shifting pattern. We can then use the brightness mode and start getting really interesting patterns that are activated by the sound and slowly morphing. And of course, like the other image, we can also make an area transparent. And then we can put another object behind it or in front of it. Let's change it so this layer is lower. And then we can spin this around and around. So you can see you can get some really interesting effects with this particular object. And of course, you know, it doesn't stop there. You know, you can put 3-dimensional objects in front, have this as a background. You can do cool stuff where you have like a shifting mountain background and then put a tree in front and do these parallax effects that you might do with, or might see with animation, and really liven up the visuals that you're making using the World Collection. So I hope you guys got a lot out of this. There'll be more videos going through more in depth, basically breaking down different effects that you can achieve with combining all these devices together, and we'll break down the Collab Alliance video that I did, which will be in a description, a link will be in the description below. So I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I'll see you next time.